Hello, yo, welcome back to week 4 of the Strive program, and this week we're going to learn CSS, Flexbox and Grid. So some of the key points I will learn for this our start with this class is this: what is Flexbox, how to add flex to a container tag, how to change flex direction, understanding flex wrap, adjusting flex item size, flex grow and flex shrink, horizontal and vertical alignment for all flex items, vertical alignment of an item, how to change order of flex item using flex within flex. So let's get started with the first one. What is Flexbox? Flexbox is a one-dimensional layout method for arranging items in rows or columns. In a flex container, items flex to fill additional spaces or shrink to fit into smaller spaces. So flex and grid, they are display property too, and they tend to be more responsive friendly than display property one that we learned last week, which is display inline block and inline block. Although the inline block is responsive friendly, but Flexbox and grid, they are more responsive friendly than it. So how to add flex to a container? So let's see how we can add flex to a container. So let's go to our VS Code. So I already have one here. So I'm going to create a div of flex. So you can call it any name. So I'll have 4 boxes. I'll call it 1. So 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be 4, this is going to be 3, this is going to be 2. Now I want each of these boxes to have a unique name, so that in case I'll need to style any of them, so let me give them a unique class name. So I'll have 1. So this will be 2, and this will be 3, and this will be 4. Okay, so now we have these boxes. So if we go to the output, we'll see just 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. So how do we add flex to a flex container? Now this flex div here is a flex container, then these other boxes or these other divs, they are the flex items. So I have an external CSS here, so I need to add that. So external CSS, so I'll add that below. So that will be my link tag dot and /. Yes, so that has been added. So there's nothing on the page. So of course, before you start a project, you have to reset. So padding 0 pixel, margin 0 pixel, then box sizing, border box. Nice. So now we move to the flex section. So dot flex, I'll put display flex. Now notice that from my div container, this is the flex container, so that's why I did .flex. So if I change it to any other name, that is the one I will use in my CSS. Now this is what you're about to see now is an improvement on how we use display property 1. So just notice that before we saved, everything was, so now you see the output of the reset that we made. So the default margin and padding is out. So but notice that when I save now, because of this display flex, you notice what will happen. You notice it has changed from inline to block, from block to inline. Now remember, if this was a display inline that I want to use, if I put here display inline, so you notice nothing will happen. Something will only change if I tell it that I want all your children of div to display inline, and that also applies to display inline, display block, and display inline block. So I have to come here to do div. So if I do that, that is when I will see a change. So this is an improvement. When you're using display flex, you don't have to specify the flex container children that you want to flex. Just say display flex, and it knows that all the items that are inside it should flex. So this is an improvement, and I don't want that to confuse you, so that's why I brought it out. So notice if I save, it's not like this. So that is how we add flex to a flex container. So the next one is how to change flex direction. So how do you change flex direction? So to change flex direction, by default, when you add display flex, the flex direction is row. So it assumes a row flex direction. But to change the direction, you can say flex direction to be column. So you notice now, if I go back to my browser, you notice it's now column. So just to add some styling, so I can add dot flex div or box. Remember, I gave them a unique name of box. So just to add some styling, border 2 pixel solid black. So if I do that, notice we have something like this. So that is it. So if I change here to row, notice how it will be like. So you see, then you can also change it to row reverse. So that means in the normal row arrangement, you see is 1, 2, 3, and 4, but row reverse now mean it will be 4, 3, just like that. So let me save and go back to my browser. Not saved. So if I go back to my browser, I will see is what 4, 3, 2, 1, and instead of flex start, it's now in flex end. Nice. So we can also have the column reverse, so you can play around with those later. But now let's use our row. So by default, if you just put display flex, is on row, but you can also change the flex direction. Nice. So now the next thing I want to learn is this, understanding flex wrap. So to do that, let me add a different one. So justify content space between. So let's see what this will do. Nice. Okay. So excuse me. So let's come here. I think there's something I need to do to create a perfect example for the flex wrap. Let's say I come here, I give this a width of 100%. So let's see how the flex containers will look like. Yes, so you see now we have something like this. So let's go to our inspect mode. Nice. So you notice that our Flexbox does not look responsive. So for all screen sizes, you notice it's trying to stretch. It is trying to remain 4 columns. So what the flex wrap does is that as the screen size shrinks, it tries to break the columns to fit in, to show nicely. So it's like being responsive. So understanding flex wrap. So let's do that. So I'll come to the parent tag here. So the flex wrap is always added to the parent flex wrap. Then put wrap. So by default it is on no wrap, but when you put it on flex wrap, you see it now becomes. So I think let's use a different, the percentage is usually responsive by default, so let me use something like 200 pixel. Okay, so you notice now as I shrink my page, you notice, so that is how the flex wrap works. Once the flex items can no longer fit into 100%, it breaks until it gets to 100%. Okay, so that is what flex wrap does. So you add flex wrap to the parent tag. Okay, so let's remove these two now. So the next thing that I want to learn is this, adjusting flex items, flex grow and flex shrink. So the flex grow shows how much space a flex item can take, whereas the flex shrink, this value specifies how much an item will shrink in order to prevent overflow. So to specify a flex grow and flex shrink, you do them simultaneously. So the flex grow is how much it will grow. So if you put 1 here, that means it's default size. Then this is the default this is the maximum size at which it can shrink. So remember, the first value here is the proportion unit, the second value is the minimum size. So at what minimum size can it shrink to? So it's 200. Then this is the proportion. So let's play around with this. So let's say I go to my VS Code, then let's say I have this width also added to it. So let's see. Okay, I have that. So the next thing, I'll come to my .flex.1. Then I'm going to add flex 1. Okay, let me remove this first. pixel. So before we save this, let's see the output. So the output will look like this. So let's see what that output now will bring. So you notice, so the flex one now has shown that all of them, like this one, should occupy almost all the space. So if I come to the second one, it says this one should be 400 or 300. So you notice how it grows. So as I shrink, you'll notice the one that has flex 200 is the one that is shrinking more, but the one that has flex 300 is one that is occupying all the more space. So you see, so that is how it is. So what will happen if you put, so if I don't want to use this, when I come here, I put my flex 1 and 200 pixel. So that is what has happened. So it gives all of them flex of 400 equal flex width, and their default will be 200. So it just the same way the 100% worked. So that is how it works. So this flex on is preferable. So what then happens if I activate my flex wrap? So let's do that. So you notice now, nice. So you see that using the flex of 200 is still that even in the responsive state is still full width, but the time we use width of 200, you notice it was not 100%. So you see, using the flex makes it display nicely. Nice. So that is how we add that. So that is, so if you have a flex item, so if you use the same markup structure here, where all of them have a unique name, so by default you can just specify your flex, so the minimum you want them to shrink in order not to avoid overflow. So if you want all of them to have the same size, then you can do that. So now you notice what happens if I come to my CSS here, and let's say I want the flex one so let's say I want the flex one to be more bigger than the others, so I'll just put 2 here. So that means it will be 2 times the available space. So let's see the output. So you notice that by default this flex one is what is 2 times bigger than this, but when it's time to shrink, you see that because the width is still the same, that is why that is shrinking. So when you play around with this, so if I add this now to 400, you notice it will not be shrinking in the same proportion with the others. So others will shrink more than it does. So you see, so that is how we use these flex items. Okay, so the next one is horizontal and vertical alignment of flex items. Just a moment. Okay, so horizontal and vertical alignment of flex items. So to create a perfect scenario for this, so in my flex container, I'll come here. So the background color for this, I want no, not background color, border. Three pixel groove, purple. So notice what will happen now. So I have this. So now notice what happens when I add a height. So let me add a height to this. So height, let me add mean height so to be responsive. Mean height 40 VH. Okay, so flex is both responsive in width and height. So okay, so let's leave it like that. I think by the time I add my alignment, I think the cost of that is this. So let's see. There's a scenario I want to create for that. Okay, so let's continue. Get it fixed. Okay, so I have a height now. Then let me try something. Height. Let me say 10 U heights. So for each of the box, let's see. So this is the scenario I want. So you notice that the parent tag is 50 VH, and all the box items I've instructed them to be 10 VH by default. and just for future growth. So let's see what happens for add mean height. So the mean height has done much work than needed. So this is the scenario I want. So now how do we center this box? So we want this line to be at the center. So to do that, we are going to use align items center, which is the vertical alignment. So we're going to do that to the parent box as usual. So align items center. So if I do that, you notice it has come to the center. Now I don't think I need this again. So you see, so I don't think I need that. So I needed that just to show you that, just to show you the effect of your align item. So you see that it has aligned the items, and by default the height is not full width. So once you add this align item center, then you don't need this. Okay, so the next thing now is to justify your content. So let's say I don't have this again. Remember, it's this one that's making it to be full width. So let's say I don't have that. You notice it will look like this. And if I remove this one, so it will look like this. So let me increase to 75. So it will look like this. So now how do I spread this? So that is where we need our justify content. So justify content space between. So you notice what it will do. So you'll notice the scenarios that I'm using here just to get the right effect. So if you don't, there are some things you put, then even when you add the right effect, you'll not be seeing it. So like if I activate, where is it? If I activate this now, I don't think I'll be seeing that much effect. So only that it will just be full width, but you see the flex between is not being felt. So just know when to add what each flex rule does and how it affects how other flex rule will work. So like we've seen that this one affects the justify content. So that means in this case, if I want to use this, then I can use my width instead of that. So you notice if I use my width, you notice I have this now. So you see, I wanted to have a default width of this, but this. So you see, it's the flex wrap that is now working now. Nice. Okay. So that is for that. So you know when you use your width, and you know when you use your flex of this. So of course, even though you're using, so by the time you play around with it, you'll get to find that. So if we activate this, let's see if there's going to be an effect. There's still going to be an effect, but you see it overrides. So because this one has grown, so the space is caused by the flex between is no longer visible. So now you notice. So you can use them, but understand how they work. Okay, so let's leave it at this. So now the next thing that I want to learn now is, so if you don't want to use flex between, there are so many of them there. there's so many of them. You can use flex around, space around. So if I do that, you see there's space around. So just play around with them. And so how do you know the ones that are available for you? So once you add this column, you see base, you see center, you see end. So the base is like the top. So if you want it to be at the top by default, then the center, that is one of your center, and then you have your right and left, space around, space between, space evenly, stretch, and all those ones. So you can just play around with them, but let's use this one, space between. Okay, so we have this now. So now the next one I want to learn is how to align a particular item. So you recall that the align items aligns all of them uniformly, but what of if in this scenario I want this box 1 now to be at the top? So I don't want it to be in the same line with this, but I want these other ones to be at the center. So I'll have to come to this one, this box 1, and I'll put align self flex, I think it's self starts, no, not self starts. So let's see what's on the slide. Flex end. So flex end, make that to be here. So flex starts should have worked. So why did it show starts? Oh, maybe it was my computer. So flex end. So you see, so by targeting this now, I've changed the direction. So that is for that. So that's how you can center align a particular item. Okay, so how to change the order of flex items. So by default, all flex items have an order value of 0. You can set negative order values to make items appear earlier than items whose value is 0. So let's say now all of them have an order of 0. So just the way I arrange them, that is how they will show. But if you add a negative value, you know, in the number line, a negative value comes before the positive value. So you have your negative at your left hand side, 0 at the center, and positive value. So you have from minus infinity to 0. Then you have from plus 1 to what? Infinity. So if you add if you add a negative value to a box item, that means it will appear first. So let's say I want my box 4 to appear as the first one. So for I'm going to change the order to -1. That's it. So instead of seeing 1 2 3 4, I'll just see 4 1 2 3. So you see, nice. So that's how I change the order. So if I want to change, so if I add an order of, so let's create another one, dot flex dot 2, say order should be 2. So you notice it is probably going to be the last because it has the highest order. So 2, are you seeing it now? Because this one is -1, 0, 0, 2. So that's how we change the order of flex items. Okay, so that's for that. Then using flex within flex. So you can use flex within flex. So let's say I come to box 4 and I add a span tag of 1, 2, and 3. I know the span tag displays inline by default. So what if I want to change it to what? To block using flex. So remember, we can do that. We can change flex direction. So that is my box 4. So I'm going to put display flex, then flex direction should be column. So by this now it has changed. So by this I've used flex to change the direction, isn't it? So what if I want it to be at the center? Of course I'll use align items center. So you see, now the center. So that is how we use flex within flex. So with this, we've come to the end of this video. So in the next video, we are going to learn about grid.